The Urban and the Mystic is here to help you gift with intention. We've been featured on Oprah's Favorite Things list, in Vogue, Goop, House Beautiful, Forbes, and not to brag, but we're even my mom's favorite gifting company. We have gifts that help you show how much you care, to truly celebrate someone, and to even help someone heal. From the love bowl to the bereavement box, there is a gift for all of life's occasions. They're handmade, hand-packed, and even the gift notes are handwritten. Order the perfect gift today at theurbanandthemystic.com.
Welcome to Ask Dr. Louise. Keep following up. Are you navigating the dilemmas that addiction, aging, and mental health issues present? Ask Dr. Louise is the place to start. Life is often a series of hiccups, and while you might get knocked down, you always have the opportunity to fall up. Addictions and mental health issues are not a life sentence. There's always hope and strategic solutions for helping you become a better version of yourself, while impacting your loved ones with grace, compassion, and integrity. Join us as we navigate how to have those uncomfortable yet necessary conversations with yourself and your loved ones to take the actions needed to help you rise to be your best possible selves. Get ready to walk away with doable solutions? Ask Dr. Louise starts now.
Okay, I am so excited. Everybody, listenership, we are so blessed because we have Araminta Jonsson straight from, is it London? Or is that where you are today?
I'm in the United Kingdom. I'm actually in Gloucestershire.
Okay, well, I won't even try to pronounce Gloucestershire because I mispronounced my own name. But for those of you that don't know, Araminta is the mover, shaker, brainchild of the Master Series at Oxford. And this is the world's largest, as my conference in England, of which I had the opportunity to attend for the first time this past September. And it is absolutely a must for anybody who is a clinician, anybody who's interested in mental wellness, anybody who's interested in integrative ways of looking. What a magnificent conference. Now tell me, how did this become your passion?
How did it become my passion? I think via so many different avenues, really. I mean, I love connecting people. I think that's one of the things I've always really liked to do. I am also passionate about the wellness space. I'm passionate about recovery, whether that's from trauma or from addiction or from any kind of mental health struggles people have had. Having gone through my own, it kind of started there. And then I worked in the event space when I was in early recovery with an event called ICAD, which no longer exists, unfortunately, but that was an event that was also in the UK, in London, and I think it was actually in Europe as well. And that was one of, it was a big addiction conference, so that's how I sort of started in the events industry, and how I think that's where my passion for events kind of, where the seed was planted and where it germinated, was I saw in that event the ability or the possibilities that happen when you bring people together. And I think one of the things that excites me the most, and one of the things that Masters Events is, and our kind of mission, is this idea of transfer of knowledge. And the transfer of knowledge is not just from the experts that are speaking to the attendees. It's actually all of the attendees that come to an event are also experts in their own disciplines. They're experts in what they do in their own lives. And we bring together, we create a melting pot of people where when they talk to each other, when they communicate, when they socialize, when they learn, they are going to be bringing diverse ideas from across the globe into one place. And that's where new concepts, new thoughts, new whatever theories can start to happen in that space. So I think that's what really excites me about what we're doing. And in terms of why the passion, I think it's a passion for, started with my own recovery and has moved into how can I make what I know and what I've learned accessible to many more people.
So tell me about you. So I will talk more about the masters and more about, you've just described positive drug potentiation or a synergistic effect. When you put everybody together and you get them to field ideas, what happens, which I saw at Oxford, is an amazing synergistic effect where I met someone from Amsterdam, I met someone from Germany, I heard their ideas and learned about, and then I could come back and do that. That is beautiful. But tell me about you. I don't know much about you.
Wow. I mean, what do you want to know about me? I am a person in recovery myself. I'm in recovery from a drug addiction. And that is how I ended up in this world, really. It was through my own recovery and more specifically my own trauma recovery, I think, that has I was in recovery from addiction, went to a rehab, was in the fellowship, and what the fellowship gave me was a huge the understanding about the importance of connection. And I think that's what I've kind of continued building upon throughout my whole life, whether it's connection with people in the 12 steps or connection with colleagues, friends, people in the trauma and mental health or well-being industry, and realizing that that's what really that drives me. And so my story, very briefly, is that I struggled as a child, as many people do, and I was thrown out of home at 15. I ended up on the streets in Miami at 16. I then went and worked in the ski resort, and I became a nanny in Madrid. I ended up traveling. I lived in Mexico. I've lived in Argentina. I've lived in Barcelona. I lived in Colombia. Many places I shouldn't have lived with an addiction, but I did. I also was able to, despite being kind of thrown out of home, the one thing I was able to always rely on was my intelligence. And that got me through, like, even though I was drowning with addiction, I still managed to get a degree, an undergraduate degree, get a master's and start a PhD in psychology. I was trying to intellectualize my way out of addiction in those days. But then I fell pregnant. When I got pregnant with my son, I immediately stopped everything, just put everything down, whether it's cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, all of it, and held on for dear life, just hoping and praying that, every day would be like, I'm not going to use today, I'm not going to use today. And after a while, like, the pregnancy hormones flooded my system and I became happier and I was able to not use. And then I gave birth and everything kind of went back to normal. And I started using again when my son was only about 6 months old. And that quickly escalated out of control and went down and down. And that's when I ended up eventually in rehab. And then when I came out of rehab, I started after a couple more relapses and a couple more, story, as we all have these stories of relationships that went wrong, etc. I ended up starting a charity for addicted prisoners called Pipe Down. It was a magazine, and what it was I used to go into prisons and I taught creative writing classes with addicted prisoners, and it was such a the reason we did that was, or the reason I started doing that, and then I got a little group of us together because I managed to fundraise to get some money to keep this charity going. And we did this to create a magazine that was written by addicts, was for addicts. And the idea was to bring in humor and education and creativity into spaces like prisons, into lives of people who are addicted. And what it gave me, I don't know what it gave everyone else who was doing it or working on it, but what it gave me was a real sense of purpose. And I think the first sense of purpose I'd ever had, and that was something that was really missing, I think, in my life. And I thought when I had my son, that would be my sense of purpose. I thought when I did whatever, when I got this degree, that would give me some purpose, but nothing seemed to give me the purpose like this charity. And I think there's a lot to be said for, giving back, being able to do something I was good at. I was very good at what we were creating, but also, as I said, so what that magazine gave me, it gave me connection to people who I was working with. It gave me a sense of purpose, as in I felt like I was doing something good. It gave me an outlet for creativity. I was, doing something that felt like I was giving back to a society that I generally drained, before up until that point. And that was my springboard. It was from that my springboard to recovery started there. Pipe Down went on to, we published quite a few magazines. We were able to get, I think we were going for about 18 months or 2 years into lots of different prisons. And it was really a beautiful project. And it really
So I have to share something with you because that touches my heart. When I first started out at the university, and I ran a program called SPAN, where people came in and out of prison. And we're trying to do that. And if they did okay, they could matriculate. But I must tell you about last Friday because you will really appreciate this. I have 3 daughters, and they're all very, very different. My middle daughter, who owns boxing studios, and you would think would be lily white, perfect, like the Stanford grad, UCLA MBA, although has experienced depression, especially after her father died. She said, "You know what we're doing, Mom, for your birthday?" And I go, "What are we doing?" She said, "We're going to prison." And I go, "Okay, Felicia." Felicia had gotten very involved with a program called Defy, which is entrepreneurs in training. So Friday night, my heart was so happy. I cannot begin to tell you this, it brought me back to my social work roots, to where I started, and to the fact that everybody was authentic. I spent Friday night at Donovan State Prison, and I will go back again. That is a correctional institute in California, probably more famous because the Mendez brothers are currently there. And this training program was the first day. There were over 60 men who really may never get out of prison there. And yet, we broke up in groups. And the idea was that this is a 7-month training program where they can be entrepreneurs of their own life. It was the best recovery playbook I've ever had. And I'm very selfish. I think I got so much more out of it than the men did, especially when it's been a long time since I've been serenaded for my birthday. And 60 of these entrepreneurs in training in a big circle in a maximum security prison. And it reminded me so much of the things I did to rekindle at 78 my purpose. So I know we're both social workers, but I just really want to thank you for sharing that.
No, I know it's incredible and as I agree with you in that I got so much more out of setting up that charity than anyone I think that benefited from the charity probably did. It was a really wonderful, as I said, without that was what really kind of gave me that springboard into recovery. It reminded me that it didn't really matter how many degrees I had or how brilliant my education was, or how smart I was. I still didn't believe I could actually do something that was of value to the world. Like a degree was just me getting another certificate, another piece of paper, whereas what I was doing here was actually working with people and yeah, changing lives even on a very, very small scale. And I think that was where it all started. And then I moved into working with ICAD, and from there I set up my own company. I had a marketing company, and then the pandemic hit. When the pandemic hit, I didn't really know. No one really knew what was going to happen. No one really knew what my business was very, very small, and I only had 3 people working for me at the time. And I got a phone call from a a client who said, oh, I have a friend who has an event, and it's a long-standing event. It would be the 30th year of this event, and he is refusing to not put the event on. And my client said, I've offered your help because you're an expert at putting on events. I was not an expert at putting on events. I had never put on an event. I just worked for ICAD at this point. And this client said, and you're an expert at putting on events. So I've said that you'll put his event on for him. And I said, but it's, a global pandemic. Everything's shut down. No events are happening. How can I put on an event for this person? And he said, you'll figure out a way. And I said, well, it's going to have to be online then. And he said, yes, that's what it'll be online. And I said, okay, can I have some more details, please? Like, who is this event for? How many people do you want? When is the event? And he said, so the event is in 9 weeks' time. There is no website. There are no speakers. There is nothing. There's no marketing. There's nothing. You have nothing. You have 9 weeks to set up. And he said, and my friend wants at least 1,000 people to turn up at his event. That had never, and no one had ever put an online event on really in those days. Like, I mean, it was just such a foreign concept. Certainly I had never put on an online event in those days. So I remember, and then before my client left, he went and said, oh, by the way, the event is for Bessel van der Kolk, and literally put down the phone. And I was like,
Oh my God.
what? How am I gonna? So I remember pacing up and down my living room, like properly in fight or flight mode, like thinking, I'm either gonna sink or swim here. We're either gonna be able to pull this off or not. So I remember I've picked up my phone and I phoned Steve, who was my digital consultant at the time, now works for me full time and has ever since this day. But I said, Steve, in proper panic mode, I said, I don't know what we're going to do. Bessel van der Kolk, somehow we've ended up working for Bessel van der Kolk. We're putting on an event in 9 weeks and help, basically. And Steve was like, right, okay, calm. He was very calm with me. It's like, what should we do? Let's first things first, let's get up a landing page, get a website going, start running some ads, see if anyone's interested, see if we can get anyone to come. Anyway, it was like this perfect storm because obviously COVID had hit. Trauma was a buzzword. Everyone was talking about it. No one could leave their home. No one else had mobilized quick enough to put events online as fast as we did anyway. And we didn't know what we were doing in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely no idea. Like, we were just going with it and hoping, fingers crossed, that we'd put something up that would work. We didn't even know, like, I think we used Zoom, Zoom. I think this created anyway, we threw up a website really quickly, set out these ads. Within 2 weeks of getting all the speakers and having the website, we had 1,000 people signed up to it. By 9 weeks, we had 7,000 people, made over $1 million in profit for the Trauma Research Foundation. It was absolutely like mind-blowing. And, it was that was kind of the tipping point for me to be like, well, first of all, welcome to the trauma industry, because I was, like, all right, Bessel was just introducing me to everyone left, right, and center. And then that's how I started really thinking, okay, events, I can do this. I know how to do this. I know what I know what works. I know what people want to hear. I got really well informed around who was, talking about some really interesting things about what was new in the space. And then I saw, so my marketing company kind of morphed into an events company, and now is also a branding and business consultancy too. So that's how I got to really where I am now. And once the pandemic had kind of finished, we continued online for a few years, myself running online events, and then we did our first in-person event in Oxford last year. So we've had 2 in person in Oxford now, and now we're running events for people all around the world. So we've got an event in New York in April. We have an event in San Diego next September, and obviously we've got Oxford every year. So yeah, that's what we do now.
Well, I am so excited because you are, if no one can, all the listeners need to know, you are inspiring and you are leading the behavioral healthcare field. Whether it's the Oxford event or it's what's in San Diego, I'm really curious about in New York what you're doing. I guess, and we have about 10 minutes left. What is next for you? Where do you want to go? What vision do you have? And is there anything you want to tell our listeners, because you are someone that I would love to learn from.
What's next and where do I want to go? I think if I hold on to always the mission of transfer of knowledge in trauma, mental health, and well-being, I think I'll go wherever it seems most sensible, wherever I can have most impact in following through with that mission and that vision. So that could be, as I said, we're running events. We run events globally now for masters events as our own event, and also like events that are powered by master events. So for example, the one in New York next April is going to be Esther Perel is putting on an event called Sessions Live. So she will be running an event. Well, she'll be speaking at an event that we will be running. That will be in Pioneer Works in New York City. I think it's in Brooklyn, Pioneer Works. It's Dustin Yellin's studio. And then we will be doing an integrative medicine for mental health event that's going to be in San Diego at the beginning of September next year. And that really excites me because I think integrative medicine and mental health is one of the next big things. I think
I
that
agree.
it's like the missing piece, isn't it? It's like the piece that we've kind of got there. I don't think we've ever got there, but we certainly understand the body better in terms of, kind of that trauma is stored in the body. We understand the brain a little bit better. We understand how the talking therapies work. But this integrative piece, this idea that, so many other things affect our systems and the way we are able to show up in the world that we are just not often are ignoring. And it's sometimes so simple, it's such simple interventions like, how we sleep, how we eat. And everyone's different, right? Everyone needs different amounts of sleep. Everyone needs different foods that make them feel good. But we've lost, I think, in this kind of modern day world, society, we've lost the ability, a lot of us, to intuitively tune in to our bodies and what we want and what we need, and to listen to what, for me, for example, I know that when I eat sugar, which is an extremely inflammatory food, I get really swollen elbows. Now, that's not to say that I won't ever eat sugar, because I like sugar and I can't help it sometimes. But I know that when I do, my elbows are going to become inflamed and I'm going to be in a bit of pain. But therefore, it's my choice. I know this happens to me. It's my choice. If I choose to then eat some sugar or some chocolate or something, then that's empowering because I choose to do that. Knowing that and we're human, I often do these kind of things, but I think so that's one part of the future for me, is where integrative mental health, and I'm really excited to be doing that conference in San Diego next year. Obviously Oxford again will happen, where I'm really excited that you'll be speaking next year.
But I live in San Diego, so I definitely want to be coming to that conference because I'm really, really interested in integrative wellness and really getting the message. Sometimes I think trauma is overused as a word and it loses its not because it's not really important, but it's like when it's spoon-fed to you over the television set everywhere. But the idea that now we can move on to integrative wellness, the idea we can look at biohacking, the idea that we actually are these entities that can take some healthy choices for our bodies for longevity, and also take a look and merge those two. I guess because I started out as a young social worker in working in ER, and we always have that separate. But now we can take a look at what all the medicine is and what all the biohacking is, because that's a whole other world.
It is.
Thing.
It's crazy, but there's also there's so many things that we don't even, or certainly I didn't know until I stepped into this space, about how mold toxicity can impact us. And certainly in the UK, we live in a lot of houses with a lot of mold. But inflammation for me has been the biggest kind of game changer, understanding what causes our systems to become inflamed, because inflammation will cause, and I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not, can't say that this is
Neither am
going to
I.
whatever, but inflammation is just the biggest no, the most dangerous thing that can happen to our bodies and our systems. But, you know, stress causes inflammation, sugar causes inflammation, alcohol causes inflammation, lack of sleep, lack of light, lack of movement. There's so many things. And so you don't have to cut out all of these things to reduce the inflammation. You can cut out some of them. And it's just understanding what those things are, I think, is a game changer. And I love the idea of bringing all of this together that's the idea of this melting pot, right? These
I love
events
that.
where you can bring all of these wonderful theories, ideas, research together and shape the future of healing, really, I think.
Well, I'm so excited. Will you tell everybody how to get in touch with you? Obviously, this is going to be, out on the internet. It'll also feature you in my blog because I would love to do that, and excited that I might get to see you when I go to London in a week or two. But how can all the listeners who are probably so ecstatic and curious, because we love curiosity, get a hold of you?
So I have if you want to look at the event website, that's mastersevents.com. We also have Instagram, which is Masters Events, and Facebook, which is also Masters Events. If you want to email in about the event, it's support@mastersevents.com. And I'm also on Instagram, although I'm not particularly active on it. So you can find me at Araminta Jonsson on there, but that's how you can get hold of me. Yeah.
So what are you going to be teaching at the I know this is a hard question. I know you have to put on the event. I know you have to do all these things, but I personally, and I'm sure I'm not alone, would love to attend a session that you do. I'm going to challenge you right now. You're talking to an old professor, okay?
No chance. No chance. I am much more the in behind the scenes person. I mean, I can't believe you've even got me on this podcast. It's not something I like to do in any way, shape, or form. I love the creativity of building something, of creating something, and then stepping back and seeing it, seeing people enjoy it. I'm the gift giver rather than I don't know. The idea of being on stage terrifies
Well,
me.
they say courage is fear that said its prayers, and you are a very adventuresome woman, and you have done many, many different things. But one day in my world of imagination, because I have one, you also will be sharing my mentoring, and helping other people do that. And bless you for putting all of this together. And but I guess I just imagine someday you'll be able to do that because you are building a legacy. And I am grateful to be able to do that. We have a minute left. What would you like to tell our listeners? And thank you.
Well, I just want to thank you. Thank you for inviting me onto this podcast. Thank you for getting me, making me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but doing it anyway. I will take on board I won't ever be giving a session, but I will look into certainly getting some coaching for being able to speak in front of other people, because I know at some point I'm going to have to stand up on some stage. So yeah, thank you for giving me a little bit of a push there. And thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you. And I can't wait to see you in about a week and a half in London, and to just follow you and to see what synergy you are putting forth for the world. You're making a big difference, Araminta, and the Master Series and all these other things. So I'm going to look forward to following you and learning from you and learning what next.
Thanks so much, Louise.
You have been listening to Ask Dr. Louise. Keep falling up. Tune in every fourth Wednesday at 12:30 Pacific Time on Transformation Network for more fresh takes on addiction and mental health that help you and your loved ones to keep falling up. We navigate how to ask yourself tough questions and how to have those uncomfortable yet necessary conversations with your loved ones. Ask Dr. Louise helps you gain resources to take doable actions. For more on the most advanced health and wellness solutions, visit allaboutinterventions.com.
The Urban and the Mystic is a brand for lovers. Lovers of life, lovers of connection, lovers of love. We help you gift someone a feeling that lasts long after the first unboxing, and that is the real gift. Our line of offerings are chic, thoughtful, personalized, and there is something for everyone. This is modern gifting. Now go find your perfect gift at theurbanandthemystic.com today. No, really, go.